Morning, everyone. I hope you're all well. Happy Sunday. Welcome again to our new time at 7 a.m. Try to do it every Sunday at 7 a.m. and with the rebroadcast at 3 p.m. Let me pause and see if I could hear my voice and make sure we are all online. Perfect. I hear my voice. So we have good news. The computer has been somewhat repaired. Another patch, another prayer, and I'm happy to have my little setup back, and should make everything much easier again. And let's hope for some smooth sailing. The guy said it was the worst water damage he's ever seen, and he doesn't know how he was able to fix it. But he was able to fix it. I literally saw burnt marks on the chips on the inside from the, I guess, the electrical short circuit that happened. But my beautiful, faithful computer is still here, and we're all still here. So God bless to that. So I'm just checking the signal here. Okay. So I'm going to take a moment and center myself and actually aim my computer towards the beautiful view that I have here, which is especially pertinent given the topic on how to work with nature and how to work with nature and be able to connect with our sort of natural environment. Now that we've learned enough of the body meditation technique, and hopefully people have been practicing the meditation practices that I've been teaching over the last 2.5 years, we've opened a possibility of connecting deeper than, for lack of a better word, normal people who haven't done this work, who haven't cleared their bodies, created that extra bandwidth within themselves to be able to be more receptive to what's outside, because there's room. They're not at 150% saturation, but they have like that 20% availability or 50% availability. They're at 80% saturation or 50% saturation or 20% saturation. So all that extra room, that extra availability within the body's reservoir and nervous system is available for our senses and is available for us to touch in and resonate with, because we're not just emanating. Our energy is not just going outwards. Me and my English words. For non-native speakers, one moment, actually, let me rearrange the computer. I just kind of launched right into it. Emanating. It means something like to send out. So the sun emanates sunlight or solar radiation. It's to come out of. So normally we're emanating. Energy is coming from us. We're projecting outwards. To what we're being here is receptive, to receive. So receptive is based on the word receive. That means we are receiving. We're allowing in. We're accepting. Yes? So we have the capacity to receive, and we open ourselves to receive. And then we have the techniques to be able to do so. Right? So 1 second here. I'm going to take a little moment to line up. I kind of launched into the teachings, and that's not quite what I wanted to do. And I'll be right back. So if you happen to be outside, well, or inside, take a moment to breathe. I might as well share exactly what I'm doing because it's actually the practice. You let go of the speed that you came in with, the momentum, the charge, getting in on time, waking up, being ready. I actually got woken up at 4:30 in the morning, couldn't get back to sleep for a while. So we let all that go. I'm outside, so I'm hearing the birds that surround me, very beautiful sounding birds. I'm seeing the sunlight that's on my feet with the shadows that are being cast on my legs. I feel the cool grass underneath me, nice and green, which I'm not exactly sure how is possible with this very hot weather. This park must somehow be, must have sprinklers somewhere in here. That's a blessing. As I'm doing this, I'm feeling the dirt under my legs, and it's helping my legs relax. Because as I release the momentum coming in here, that means that energy is not in my body. And that means my legs are able to receive the energy of the cool grass and the damp dirt underneath me. And I literally feel how that itself is calming my legs and me, because my legs are part of my body. And so it promotes a stillness. And a still body and calm energy is a calm mind. And from that calm mind, I'm able to teach. All right, it's a beautiful view. So if you're in, you should try to be doing this yourself. I'm going to set down the microphone, look at the view, and center. Okay. So I actually put my fingertips over my eyes. Like I've said, fingertips sort of on the eyes or a little bit above. And I turned inwards. Hands over the eyes help you turn inwards. And actually, I did a breathing exercise that relaxes and brings energy up the upper body, the spine, and then I relaxed and my whole body became aligned. I didn't quite teach that practice yet. And my mind became still. I found the focus in my body and my body's alignment. That means the top of the head through the toes are aligned. Felt the alignment. And then I took a breath, opened my eyes. Well, first I rubbed the eyes 3 times on each side. We hold a lot of energy in our eyes. And then I looked at the space above me, the space in front of me, a sort of vista, clouds, the blue sky, beginning of a new day. And now I feel connected to the space around me. I've become part of the space around me energetically. We always are, but are we on the inside? In a way, I've embedded myself energetically in this landscape. Versus I was sort of coming in, emanating. Now I'm receptive. The space comes through me, in me, and I feel the energy around me more. I'm part of the ecosystem because I've relaxed, aligned, released, and I'm receptive. So this system around me, this area, flows through me. That's why it's important when you do this practice, you have a clean area, clean space. And because it's clear, it's deeply healing to my body because grass, moisture, and things that are alive, but we're meant to be in nature. Our civilization and society and streets and buildings and bricks and cement, that's not normal to our body. That's very modern. It takes thousands of years for our body to acclimate to our environment. Our bodies are pretty much geared to being in wooden things or in the woods or more connected to nature than we are. So it's a foreign environment. Even though mentally we are used to being in this world, we grew up in this world, this is what we know. Not so much for our bodies. It really hasn't gotten used to it. There hasn't been enough generations of this for our body to align. So when we return to nature, in many ways, we are returning home. And our body views it as, oh my God, it's where it feels it belongs. So when we connect and we learn to release and relax, we're allowing our body to just exhale and be like, oh my God, here I'm home. Oh, and it relaxes very deeply and finds the healing of what it needs in that environment to replenish what's deficient in our cities and towns. We drive metal pieces of cars. We get honked at. We have red lights. All this instant stimulation that we have. We hear our neighbors. We get woken up at 4:30 in the morning when we only sleep 5 hours, 6 hours a night, tops. We have alarm clocks blaring. We're not following the cycle of the sun of sunrise, sunset. Even 100 years ago, people pretty much went to sleep at sunset, woke up around sunrise. Or they read a little bit into the light. But do you see, we didn't have everything to keep us up at 10, 11, midnight. These are the cycles of the body, much more geared to the natural world. So when we return, our body is able to get what it needs and hit a reset button. So when people go hiking or they go camping, It's not that they eat granola cereal, though they do, or that they're somehow 70s hippies that somehow exist in the year 2020 and some. It's that they decide to sort of reset. Now, I used to do this by traveling, seeing the world, big cities, whatever. It took me out of my normal environment to something foreign, or even foreign that I knew quite well, like when I go to France or Western Europe. But still, it's that vacation, the ability to release and let go the habits and the normal and explore different foods, different restaurants, different people, different this. It forms a sort of break, right? There's a disconnect from what we're used to and an enjoyment and a different way. And you walk a lot more, you visit parks and museums, you're surrounded by beauty. It's different. So I'm not saying it's only nature, there's other ways. All of that helps the body to sort of give a reset. During the summer, I used to go to the beach regularly. I told people, this is a different example. I told people, I said, this resets me. I'm good till November. They looked at me like I was crazy. I said, look, I live in New York City. This is detox. This is a retreat. And it was, once every 2 weeks. But the next weekend, both days, I went out to some natural beach with, using a ferry. Just a beautiful beach, and spent the day there, or on the roof of my building, sunbathing. I love sunbathing, but not with all this horrible UV that exists nowadays. It's just really intense. And it was the Northeast, so whatever they call sun isn't what's happening here in California. So it's an ability to relax and release under the sky, by the waves, by this, and it's deeply healing. So I kind of cleared the winter. I cleared the stress of work. I cleared what I was holding, went into the fall till about November. I started feeling it again. And then what did I do for December? Because cold weather and everything is hard. I can't really handle it because I grew up in California. I went off to a winter destination, and I'm not talking skiing, I'm talking sun. So Mexico or Florida or somewhere where I could be in the sun, in the heat, and I love the ocean, by the ocean. Or went off to Peru or wherever, where it's warmer. Get that healing, that reset, and then I was good till about March, April. Well, then there's spring. So I learned how to work with my body to find little patches of reset. When I came back to New York City, give an example of summer, right? So I go into the summer. New York City has had its way with me by then. I'm all engaged. I'm spinning with the city. I'm walking a little too fast, talking a little too fast. I think differently. I've sort of caught up in the New York City mentality. I go through the summer, or even after a couple weekends, suddenly I'm doing the city. The city's no longer doing me. I'm on top. I'm not so much absorbing and becoming the city and its energy and its people. I'm emanating. I'm controlling how more I'm engaged. I'm less receptive to the city because I've refound my center. So just because you're receptive doesn't mean you're receptive to everything. It means you refound your center and you're growing in the strengths within yourself. You've opened into an environment that's clearer, healing for the body, healthy for your mentality and psychology. So when you go back in, it's not necessarily that you're going to absorb the city. You found strength and healing. So obviously you go back into the crazy, it's going to look crazy versus when you left, it looked more normal. And you're going to realize, oh, this is a beautiful city, has all wondrous things. But it's like, whoa, it's a lot. But you learn to engage in a different, healthier way. That checking out and removal of yourself gives you a possibility of returning to a saner way of being. more centered, engaging, enjoying, but also knowing when to pull back so you don't get caught up in the wave. And it's not just the city, it's the wave of life, wave of family, wave of work. You're in it, but you're not swimming in the soup as much or swimming in that energy. You are more self-contained. So the body work isn't all about I absorb everything. No, it's about creating your container. But just like a dam's been drained, it still has the reservoir. It's just not full. And the reservoir has walls. And it's there. You just see more of the cement. There's more available. There's more air in the reservoir. There's more space. But that doesn't mean the reservoir disappears or that it leaks different things. The dirt still stays outside. The deer still stay outside. Right? So you still have your container. You just let go of the PSI a little bit. You let go of the pressure. The tire's still there. It still holds air, but there's room to expand and contract. It's healthier. It's not about to puncture and explode. Does that make sense? So when we engage with the natural world, we avail ourselves. Lord. We engage with the possibility of what's being offered. We say yes to something that's being offered. That's not discussed as much today. Everybody's at home. Everybody's on their phones. Everybody's, playing tennis or golf. Well, golf is in nature. See? And tennis is on the court, and it's a little different. It helps. Exercise really helps too. Cardio helps. Cardio, if you do it mindfully and you try to relax and let the energy through and get the heart rate to a certain level, it's very cleansing. It clears the mind. You think clear. The stress leaves. Well, that clears the reservoir. You see, you come back from a retreat, you go back into more cardio and exercise or walking or whatever. That keeps you clearer. Now be careful. There's all sorts of respiratory diseases out there, so be careful what you're breathing in. You have to use your own judgment on that. Going to the gym isn't quite what it used to be. But, there's a lot of ways to avail yourself with health and maintaining the sanity. So, when we go into nature, we relax. We take that moment to center. So, we kind of did the park. It doesn't take long. If you're new to the body work or haven't done it, for longer than 3 or 4 months, you should lie back, go through the practice. Doesn't mean you spend forever going through the whole body and it's an hour. No, just lie back, see, where's the tension? Okay, I relax the foot. Oh, now I feel the tension in the shoulder. Okay, I relax the shoulder. There's tension in my legs. I relax the legs. It's very where you feel it. So you're hopping all over the body. When we focus on certain body parts, that's more of the formal practice when you have time. Especially at the beginning, I suggest you really do go through it systematically because it really opens and you're going to feel this tension where you think there's no tension. But by doing that deep work, you're opening and causing the conduits, the flow of energy through the subtle body, through your energy body. It starts flowing. So you're opening the roads, the streams, right? So when you are out and about, your streams have been engaged with and cleared to a certain extent. So you could just lie back and touch into where the blocks are. You don't as much need to do a deeper body meditation because you've already moved some of the junk. You've already opened. So you could just go where you feel it. And the pathways are there to allow the energy to move out. So it's quite fast. You see, it doesn't become this big thing, but you kind of got to do the practice. And it's very important to do it systematically. It's almost like Yeah, it's like you're learning something. You got to put in, do it, and then it's already open and available, and poof, it's really fast. Like I did it in, what was it, 40 seconds, 30 seconds for the whole body. But I also do other practices, and it's been a while, but it's easy. So I'm going to be talking about going out in nature. But I'll also be talking about places like the beach and things. So I have notes to prod my mind and make sure I hit what I want to hit, or discuss rather what I want to discuss. So I think I touched on the opening up point. So we open up in trust to what that space has for us, especially when we're away from people and outside noises. So in the beach, I wouldn't necessarily be around everyone or other people or kids, teenagers, adults with radio, because that keeps your energy tight because you're waiting for that sound. You're not opening up because you really can't trust that shock of noise. So you kind of go further away so you can trust the quiet. And when you know it's quiet, you are able to really let go and be there because you're not going to get startled. Yes? So when you go hiking on a trail or you're by a alpine lake or something, there's not that many people coming by. And those are very respectful, well, at least they used to be. Now it's, a mixed bag, to everybody's safe space. Yes? So we are able to let go our guard. It's like we're opening the windows and doors and air vents of our house. The garage door, the back door, the attic window, all the doors and all the rooms are open, and we're allowing it all to ventilate. The cupboard doors are open, and we're just allowing the air and the wind, which is energy, to go through our house. And everything that's stale is invited to leave. That's sort of the concept behind it. Helps if I put on my reading glasses. So in a way, it creates a vacuum. There's space around us, so that openness allows our energy to go out. If it's open space around us and we've relaxed, then there's nothing really holding our energy within us that's not meant to be there, all that tension and anxiety, and therefore it's able to leave because there's not pressure from the outside and we don't have resistance from the outside. So that open space really is an open invitation for a release and letting go, and helps the body work when you get back into the normal world, the body meditation and everything, because you've really helped clear some of those streams in a deeper way. It takes the algae off our reservoir. It takes some of the grit and dirt and stones away because there's a deeper flow, a faster flow through the streams. Therefore, all the gunk that's in the streams gets blown through and out. Yes? And there's certain environments that do that in a more intense way. Perfect. So that's sort of conceptually what we're doing. This is very real, thousands of years of history on this. I personally have experienced everything I'm about to share, and I hope you know that I'm pretty grounded. And by hearing it, you have an idea of what to touch in or what to see. Most people are not going to have the intense experience that I have with these things, because I go really deep and I have the techniques and I have trust. But you start slowly and lightly just to investigate. And if it ever gets to too much, you remove yourself from an environment. And of course, if you have certain medical, psychological issues, these might not be the best exercises for you, or it might be. But you should really check in, because everybody's different. So you should check in with your practitioner and make sure, these exercises are for you. But for most people, it should work and should be helpful. And just be mindful, there's levels to these experiences. So let's give a clear, major experience. I went to Yosemite a couple years ago, and Yosemite is full of granite, the type of rock. I didn't know too much about granite. I don't think it really exists on the East Coast. And granted, when I went to Yosemite last time when I was 16, I didn't feel it at all. I didn't have the receptivity. I had a lot of density in me and just was whatever, and, didn't even particularly notice the ground. But when I went, I was much older than the practices. And so I go camping. So I went with my little tent. The pad beneath me wasn't adequate. So I was pretty much sleeping bag with the pad deflated on hard ground that was still very cold because the snow had just melted. Yes, it was a fun evening. And I didn't have the right tent. I did not have a winter tent. So the wind was blowing in. It was an intense experience, which makes for a very tense clearing experience, because the body is somewhat under tension. And the intensity of the granite I felt. I never knew intense granite could be such a more high-powered stone. And I had nightmares for 2 or 3 nights. I don't tend to have nightmares. They were intense. They were things from my past. I don't even know what was going on. And I was being worked over. And during the day, the granite was like this pressure against my body, and my mind was racing. All sorts of emotions came up. A deep healing and clearing, basically. After day 3, from the pressure of the night and pressure of everything, I suddenly felt this huge release of energy out of my body. I was just like, oh my God. And I literally saw almost a cloud just leave. I felt 30 pounds lighter. And then I was able to resonate with the trees, and it was so beautiful. The granite didn't affect me anymore, and I had the most beautiful dreams. But that intensity, and the reason I describe one of the more intensive experiences of my entire life, was to show what's possible with the practice. Most people around did not feel anything. So there is a spectrum, right? Or they would have gone to their cars, or they're sleeping in a hotel. But this was, basically, if I wanted an intense experience, it's pretty much what happened. And it wasn't particularly intentional. Being cold at night, the whole shebang kind of put the body under a certain amount of stress. And then finally the body kind of cracked and let go. And because I was under so much stress initially, it was hard for me to really be in the Yosemite environment and be receptive to it, because I was just all a very internal process. And this process can be very internal. You're turned inwards. But once it flows out, then you have so much space in your reservoir, because the floodgates sort of opened and released the pressure. And it just went through the whole body and out. And then I was able to resonate with the trees and the rocks and things. And then I would put my hands on the granite, and I could really feel what its properties were. But before, I really couldn't. I remember I was putting my hands on the granite on a trail, and this sort of, I don't know, Instagram couple, YouTube couple, all preppy, Lululemon, the whole shebang, literally looked perfect. beautiful woman, beautiful man, whatever. And I remember I was putting my hands in, I closed my eyes to kind of see what I can feel, which is very possible when you're receptive. And I remember the man turning to the woman, and they were like in their early 20s. She just told her, don't look, don't stare, don't stare. Look forward, keep walking. I, I had the deepest chuckle. And it does look foreign to people. I used to think, wow, that's really strange. But then you get an understanding and you realize it's really not. When you touch a tree, you can feel the energy within it, the wood, that it's alive. Why now I'm sitting under several trees and I could feel the energy of the ground underneath it and the trunks and things and the life, because underneath the ground are all these roots, the older trees. And it has a certain thing that our body, even if you can't feel it, I guarantee you 100% your body does. And it's very healing because our bodies don't get that inside of our homes or our cars. We're surrounded by plastic and linen and cloth and plaster and stone and bricks and, paint. It's not quite what it's used to. So there's that experience. Just to, if I give an example that's a 10 out of 10 example, you have a pretty clear idea of the most intense it could possibly be. And then, so you have an idea as to what's kind of going on at a deeper way. So notice something that intense wouldn't necessarily be optimal, with someone who has, more psychological things they need to be aware of, right? You have to be able to hold that space. You can't freak out in that. And that takes practice. So if it does get to intensity, remove yourself from the space. Or, but chances are it probably might not, given the level of practice isn't there. Does that make sense? Yes? I'm kind of giving different levels all in one teaching. So that's why I'm mentioning so many different elements, just because there's people very advanced listening to me who might not be aware of these things, who's never been around granite. So they're like, oh, fascinating, interesting. It's the way I would be. Or, people who are at the level to really engage at that level of things, and they're like, oh my God, okay, oh, this is what, oh, and they're just like, next weekend they are so there, and they're like, oh, this is amazing. It's also, I was one of those people. And then others who it scares them a little bit, and that's okay, right? There's the ocean, there's forests, right? So there's things that are less scary. So I had a similar experience in the high desert. High desert is a high altitude desert, 3, 4, 5,000 feet high. Joshua Tree is one. That was an intense experience as well. It wasn't granite. There was something about that location. Somehow the earth and its magnetic field in that location, that energy is in the rocks because it's in that location, and the dirt and the thing is in that location. It was pretty intense for the first 2-3 days, and then boom, beautiful, open. There's also the spaciousness of the area, beautiful walks that you could stare at while meditating. You could look out over a horizon and see beautiful rocks formation. There's an open space. It's like the lid of a pot has been opened, and it's just open. Not too many people. Beautiful, beautiful open space, gorgeous rocks. So, and you do a little camping, or you're out in a hotel outside and you go in, it's just, and the cactus. So you're surrounded by beauty and gorgeousness, which gives you a serotonin boost. And God knows in today's society, we all use serotonin boosts. It's the sort of happy hormone in the body. When you have enjoyment or pleasure, you feel good. It releases a hormone in the brain. And it's very, very nourishing. I don't think most people had that deep reaction that I had, but they enjoyed the space of a desert. Let me tell you, the sunsets were just stopped me in my track. The most beautiful colors and hues of blue and violet. And since it's higher up, there's no pollution. And the yellows and the orange, I wish I... One moment. I mean, I could describe it all I want. But let's see if we get lucky and I could pop it up in a second. I am not going to take forever to see if I can find this. But, oh, maybe I put it in a folder. So the gorgeous beauty of what we experience is medicine. It helps us. I don't think this folder goes back far enough for this. So it's more than the energy, it's how gorgeous it is. It's the experience of camping. Oh, shalom, shalom. Doesn't fully capture it, but so I was preparing my tent for the night and bingo. You know, why not have a little show and tell, right? This is why I go into these places. Didn't quite. People who might not have the opportunity see. Joshua Tree is in the desert of LA, about 3 hours south, about 2.5, something. Yeah. And then this. I would sit here and meditate and practice for a lot of the afternoon on these walks. Very special energy. Amazing experience. Yeah. And then I would look out over the vista, the Joshua trees, everything. So what does this sort of do to the mind? What does it do to us psychologically? All of these things, these are really sort of important. It helps our reservoir to calm down and reset. I feel calm just looking at these images. Wow, there's so many. Wow, this really, maybe 2 more. Well, 1 more here. I really didn't get a chance to edit these pictures to fully bring out the beauty. You know, cameras need sometimes a little help to capture what's seen, but here's sunset with a Joshua tree. And of course, at night, you see all the stars, thousands and thousands of stars. It's so clear and it's quiet. And it allows a deep healing. So high desert, but also, a special high desert. Oh, that one looks a little faded. Looks better on my screen. But you get an idea. So that's a sort of high desert experience. A normal desert is an open vista with not a lot to see. Great for meditation. If you're a hardcore meditator, many people have gone out into the desert to be little hermits. Very intense. And, these heat issues and all that, I wouldn't so much recommend deserts because they're very challenging environments. Warm during the day, freezing at night. Joshua Tree was warm during the day, and boy, you froze at night. And yes, I still did not have a 4-season tent, so I froze. Oceans and coastlines. Let me see here. Yeah, so the deserts is a lot of solitude. You really have to look inwards and deal with yourself. Oceans, all the salt, like salt baths, Epsom salts, remove energy from the body, just the properties of salt. It's well known. So you go into the ocean, you release a lot, then you go sunbathing on sand where the ocean cleans every day and every night when the high tide, and it's very clean. So it's a lot of release because the whole environment's about release. You've got the water, you got the waves. The waves are white noise, which calms the mind. You could see dolphins go by. You could see, little sea otters and things and seals going by. If you live in a place where it has those animals, it's wondrous. And if you're a little away from people, it's very calming and relaxing in the open space as well. Unless you go inwards, beautiful place to pray. I used to tell people, the beach is my temple, my cathedral. It's a great place to connect with God and yourself and contemplate and touch in with a deep wisdom that's within us. And if the UV is not too high, I love sunbathing, but, that's, my thing. Deep forests. Very grounding, gorgeous. Trees have an energy. It has a primordial feel, primordial, like early, sort of before formation, very virginal feel to it. And you feel the moisture, the plants, you could smell the leaves. It's a very deep sensory experience, could feel a little more damp, but then you feel the moisture. I love forests. There's streams, you'll find little rivers, there's all the animals that live in these places, hawks, owls, falcons, eagles, just gorgeous. Same with the mountains are these animals, and these animals are in the desert too, and so you hear the squeaks of an eagle, just wondrous. You're able to distinguish between a falcon, a hawk, and an eagle, and vultures and things. And before they're all the same until you look at different and you see, hold on, they're all a little different and then you start understanding the beauty of the different species and the color of red that's also brown. And you see how huge the claws of a talon of an owl is. And you're like, oh my God, of an eagle, you're like, oh my gosh. And you just see how big they are. You open for wonder. You step out of your normalcy into something you don't experience, and it kind of breaks the pattern. And you open in wonder and beauty And in that, there's a great release and a reset button is hit. And then you might get hooked like I am. So be careful. And you want to do these things. Mountain peaks and high elevations. There's a lightness of being. The higher you go, the oxygen is less. So it takes a while, a day or two to get used to it. There's less density. You feel lighter up there, and it's less dense. This oxygen is, air is thinner, tends to be cooler. There's no pollution. There's more stars. So there's an openness of space. And the trees tend to be more pine, which has a certain quality. There's more exposed rocks and streams and very pure, cleaner environments. They tend to be protected. So are beaches and stuff. But when you're up there, there's fewer people. There's no hotels. Everybody's camping unless you do a day trip. And people tend to leave their shit at home. So when you meet people out there, they tend to be happier and more carefree. It's a different experience. A beautiful experience. Moving water, rivers and waterfalls. You feel the flow, the noise, the moving. People get really into waterfalls and rivers. It's nice. For me, it's a little intense. Not so much. I prefer little streams. The trickle of smaller streams for me. But others just love it. People say it's very cleansing. For me, it's a little abrasive. But you investigate and you see. Volcanic landscapes. Well, high vibrational intense. Techites are stones from volcanoes. They're high vibrational stones that when you hold them, if you have sensitivity, it's some of the most strongest stones you can hold after meteor stones. And being on a volcano is a high energy zone. I had the privilege of being on Mount Shasta in Northern California once, and it was intense and beautiful, stunning views. And you approach it and you just see this volcano approaching right in front of you, and there's nothing, it's all flat, and then suddenly, boom, this massive mountain just pops out of nowhere and pops right back down, and it's so clear it's a volcano. It's like, oh my God, you just hits you like, oh my God, I knew I was going to a volcano. But when you're in front of it, you're like, oh my God, that really is a volcano. And then you're like, oh my God, is it going to blow up? And then you realize, no, it hasn't blown up for a couple thousand years. You're probably fine, though it is overdue. But, there's all these warning signs before. It's a moment. And then you're there, and the small towns before it are so cute and rustic, and they got little cute stores, and it's the whole thing. But you notice it's all medicine. We're trying to take the tension out through our body work, but we could take the tension out by being in stunning places that are so different that it's sort of we regain a childlike innocence. We become more childlike because we're in wonder as adults. We're like, wow, I see it on TV, but now you're here. Wow. Yosemite is stunning, carved by retreating glaciers after the last ice age. One of the most beautiful places on the planet, the waterfalls falling down, especially right after the winter and spring, they're gushing. Thousands, millions of gallons of water coming down, and you hike under the waterfalls, and you're like, oh my God, you get soaked when you hike under certain trails. And you see it from a distance. There's a big river, I think Merced River, that goes through it. It's so high. You see El Capitan, where people hike, takes 3 days to climb on top, I think. And you see little specks of color up there on a sheer up-down wall. And you see little tents anchored, and you're like, oh my God, people really do that. And I pray for them. I'm like, oh my gosh, people do that. I'm like, I know people do that. But when you actually see them on the wall, You're like, wow, that's human beings really do that. And I'm like, I couldn't ever. Just what a nightmare. But yet you see the variety of people's desires and what gives them their joy. And you see beautiful lakes and you have your sandwich and your picnic. You go with friends and family and you laugh and you have your campfire and you have little marshmallows on a stick and you eat your little hot marshmallows and you cook a little meat or something on the fire, and you find the wood for your fire. It's a different experience that reduces the pressure on your reservoir. Then, of course, if you do the body work while you're there, that sort of deeper work, then you start like, oh my God, this is what HP Shalom means by energy from a rock or a tree. Oh my God, I don't think I've ever really seen a river in that way. I'm not looking at this landscape in the same way when I arrived 3 days ago. Oh my God, I was seeing 20% of the richness. And you realize you're seeing the world in low saturation, like very dull colors. You do this, you do the mantras, you do the prayers, you do the body meditations, you do other things, and then you realize you're seeing the world in deeper hues of colors. You're hearing birds that people don't hear. You're like, oh, look at this. Did you hear that beautiful sound of the bird? And they're like, what bird? And then they wait for 20, 30 seconds. They're trying to listen. They're like, I still don't hear it. I'm like, you don't hear it in the distance? And they're like, no. Because they don't have the space and they haven't developed the sensitivity and cleared their ears a little bit of the backing up of sound or whatever, that they aren't able to hear as deeply, see the colors as vibrant, feel the coolness and the movement of a spring, feel the intensity of granite and be thankful even when they're really going through it, because you're like, it's going to be so much better on the other side, and have the abilities to do it safely. But ever something gets to be too much, please stop. Take a break. Go to a different environment. Lower in altitude. Find a spot, even if it's a cute village, then hang out there. Always of all these practices, it's out there, mentioned so you have an idea, but it's for you to engage in which way it is. See, I go in and I really go there. But sometimes I go in and I'm really light and fluffy because I just need light and fluffy this time. And then there's other times, I make sure I don't see a person for 4 days. And I really practice 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day, in the morning, during the day, in the afternoon, before going to sleep. But it's become a meditative retreat. It's a retreat. And I think I'll mention retreats in a couple of weeks, and we'll go into how to go about it. But you have to kind of prep yourself. You develop the skills for a couple hours here, a couple hours there. You just don't hop in for 2, 3 days or a week or 10 days or 3 weeks. It's not like hopping in the water. You got to develop the skills. You got to ease into the water and have, you try it for just 5 days. 5 hours at home or a day at home, turning off the phone and practicing, praying, reading, being internal process, internal feeling, opening yourself up, working slowly. You learn to slim. Takes time. Start on the shallow end, you go to the deep end, then you go off into the ocean. Like I gave that analogy a year or 2 ago, 3 years ago. It's been a while. You start and then you move and you progress. This is kind of showing the possibility and also pointing to when, you could really go there. But there's a whole process and there's gentleness, because the point is to relax. There's techniques that could be more intense, or places or environments. And people, I doubt, have the same experience I had in Shasta. And I know people who describe it and they had a million times more intense experience than I have. But it's where you're comfortable. because we're not there to make more blocked streams, to clog our dam, to make sure those floodgates that gush out the water are shut even tighter. We're there to loosen and relax. So it has to be enjoyable, full of wonder and delight, full of inquiry, and feeling comfortable even when it's more intense. And knowing to say, okay, I've had enough, I'm pulling back a little bit. See, it's all a dance. You're a beginning dancer, you've been doing it for a while, you're more advanced. Each has their level of comfort. And if you're more advanced, but you're just not feeling it today, well, you do a medium level dance and you go slower because you're not in the groove. Do you see? Yes? And that's true of all the techniques. And you know when to go to a teacher or to go to a specialist because something feels a little off and you need some help. It's intelligence and wisdom, which is the same for work. You feel out of your depth, you go to a mentor. Something feels off, you go to a specialist. You go where you feel comfortable and yet you push yourself a little bit so you grow. See, everything in life. Your kid has a cough. Well, when you're a new parent, it's panic. You take to the emergency room. The doctor says it's a cold. Just calm down. There are books, right? This is your second child. Cough, sneezing, hacking. You're like, oh, it's fine. This medication, we're good. You go to sleep. You don't worry about it. But that's experience. But then you also know, oh, this is a little odd. Right to the doctor. I need to see you today. You see, feels a little more off. So these things are in everything we do. And so you bring it to all of this. Yes? Canyons. Oh, Lord, I love canyons. I once went to Bryce Canyons in Utah. Is it in Utah? Yes. Gorgeous. Canyons, other canyons in Utah. The Valley of the Gods. Monument Valley, which is kind of not a canyon, this sort of monolith, but stones going up tends to be more desert-like, but not always. I guess you could say Yosemite is a canyon. But when I say canyons, I think more rock. But then, I've seen, I guess canyons is broader than what I see in the Western United States. But, you're in it and there's often a stream or not. But it's sort of above you and around you, and there's an area you could hike. You're surrounded by 3 dimensions of rocks, either side, beneath, the sky above. And there's different trees and different formations, different animals, different energies to explore. Canyons tended to be very sacred places by Native Americans. There's energy coming from canyons because it's focused on either side. So it tends to be more intense energy because it's inside a container. And it tends to move through and out. Yeah. Ancient tree environments, redwoods, sequoias, different, more kind of we consider exotic trees. They have a real ancient feel to them. They're hundreds and hundreds of years old. It's very different than a eucalyptus tree or a pine tree. Their barks are different. Their root system's different. They have a presence and an energy that's cultivated over hundreds of years. There are trees, I've been around, privilege of being around, that were 2,000 years old. It boggles the mind that this tree was around there that long. I mean, we think human history, 2,000 years old, that's ancient, so long ago. And then you see a tree that was there back then. And you're like, wow. Regularly, the tree's 1,500, 1,400, 800 years old. And you look how high they are. And they're just there living in that same spot for so long. And you feel it. It's sacred. To kind of, you see the immense scale, the silence of the wind going through these areas, and the birds, the animals, hiking under there, camping under there. Something about waking up in a tent, sleeping in that open space. Be a little scary if you're not used to it. You feel this space and the energy. You have to be prepared of sleeping outside, and there are wild animals. So if you frighten easily, or this is really not for you, and you might hear branches cracking at 2 a.m. But, you don't put the food in your tent, and you're fine. You have to trust what the specialists tell you. But there's an element of risk, But so with everything. But you feel the silence, and you wake up in the morning and it's still, and you see the light fill your tent with the sunlight, and you get up and everything's fresh and new. And you see the sunrise and sunset, and you have your campfire. Very healing, very reset button. But then, I like these things. So it's not for everyone, but there are beaches, there are day trips, there are lodges in these areas, nice rustic, with a bed and wood, but it has a rustic feel. They got a little fireplace, they got the mom and pop cooking, and it could be smaller, and you go outside and there's the mountain. Boom. So you are in a more controlled environment, but you also surrounded by nature, breakfast by outside, dinner outside. They might have tours. It's different. We are detoxing from what we're used to. We're detoxing from things that we're not meant to hold. So by detoxing, we're clearing ourselves of energies that just are not, they're toxic. Detoxing, removing toxins. And these places help. And they're all a little different. And there might be places I haven't mentioned. Rainforests. Oh, Lord. Don't get me started. I once had the privilege of being in the Braintree. I told you I like to travel. Braintree Natural Preserve on the northern part of Queensland in Australia. So that's the eastern coast above Sydney, above Cairns. Or people pronounce it Cairns, Cairns, but they pronounce it Cairns. There's a true rainforest preserved called the Braintree. It's 100 million years old, or is it 150? I think it's 100 million years old. It survived the last ice age, and I think it survived all the ice ages. And there are animals and trees and fruits that only exist there, and beautiful butterflies that fly all over it, of all these colors that you never thought existed. And they're big butterflies, like almost the size of my hand. Half of it, like 3/4. Gorgeous. Beautiful fruits that I've never eaten again. I went on a tour and took us for a little place in the middle of the place, and they explained us the history and what's going on and knowledge. And then they had these fruits that I've never seen before, and they're like, here are the fruits of the rainforest, and I didn't recognize any of them. You felt like a child trying an apple or a banana for the first time. And I'm like, what is this going to taste like? So they would try to describe it, because I was afraid I was going to get something that's just yucky. And you literally wonder, fluorescent yellow, deep red. You're wondering, am I poisoning myself? And they're like, no, these are real fruits. And so you take them and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Oh my God. And then you're a little sad at the end, because you're like, I'm never going to find this stuff again. But then you're so happy that you experienced it. And you open up to wonder. In our society, we've lost the wonder and the joy. We are heavier burdened. Economic, society, aggressions. And it really, really affects us. It ages us. It gives us illnesses, all sorts of stuff. By going in there and having the reset and having the childlike wonder, being able to breathe, and something where civilization is not, really, really is medicine of the heart, the body, the soul. And I find God there. For me, going to these places, even a simple beach or even in this park, the silence, even though I hear cars moving, probably off some freeway in the distance, the whoosh of cars, but I hear also the birds and I feel the coolness before what's supposed to be an extremely bad day with heat waves. But it's cool and fresh, and the sun isn't intense. There's low fog that look like clouds, but maybe they're clouds, I don't know. But it sort of shelters me from the sun, and there are shadows, and it's a beautiful day. I find God in this. I find God in the stillness and the sounds of a beach. I really pray at a beach. I find God in rainforests. I find God in redwood forests, by the tree, by the granite, in the desert. I tend to be very religious, but you could also just find peace and wonder and spirituality, a pure form of yourself. And if you feel called to pray, after you've opened and cleared, you will find that there is a very clear connection sometimes, that you really feel the presence with a capital P. It's inside, you could pray outside, or you just feel it in your heart. You cleared enough of the smut that you can feel the stained glass of your inner cathedral, the altar of your temple. You feel the walls, you feel the sacred around you, in you, and you just bow, you're able to just pray. You just pray, you feel it, and you know that this is really a deep prayer, and it resonates. These can be really beautiful places of connecting with Hashem, with Adonai, with Elohim, with Abba, with Yahweh, with Emmanuel, with El Shaddai, whatever name you wish to call him, in whatever way you resonate with him, in whatever form you choose. Free prayer, which tends to be my preference for me personally, just praying what I feel called to pray, with also, formulaic prayers that are written by religious people that are, of certain formula. For some, that's more their thing, and people mix both. But what's important to touch back into the more religious aspect, what's really important is you have that connection. We're draining the reservoir. We're doing these techniques. Body meditation will so help connect deeper with the mantras of God, because you've become more open and receptive, and therefore you'll be able to feel it. And it'll make it more powerful for you, because it's less for these energies and blessings to have to work through, because you've cleared some of it. And so when you go into these places, you're able, in your own life, when you go back into society, you're able to keep that space alive within you. And you've developed the skills so it lasts longer afterwards. There's that glow and momentum coming out of it. And ultimately, all this work, draining of the reservoir, is so the Shekhinah that lives within, that temple that lives within, could always be felt and accessed. And you realize you're never alone, that the blessings and God and that hotline to God, that red phone that you pick up to God when the shit get real, works. Or just to say hello, or just to say thank you. It's no longer words that just, where's this going? But you feel like it's going somewhere. It's not scattered. You feel the resonance of the Shekhinah that flows through you, flows through these beautiful sacred places that I consider nature to be sacred in a very pure way because they're untouched. But it also flows through the trees and the parks. The Shekinah is in everything, even the pollution, even our cars, even the paint on the walls, even, can I give an analogy that's a little more shocking? Even in the poop, in the shit. I know, might shock, but in everything is the essence of life, which is God. Otherwise, it won't exist. In the way we learn to find the sacred in all, even if it's off, because in it, for it to exist, for it to be, there is a life. And in that life, there's divinity behind it. This took me quite a while to understand, and even I'm a little afraid I might not have quite said it perfectly, because I did not study it before I said it. But in the majesty of God exists in the beauty of life, in all its processes, in all its movements, because it came from the breath, the ruah of life. And when we go to these beautiful places, we are able to touch in with the essence of ourselves and ultimately with the essence of God and His care and love for us all. May we forever be blessed. Amen. So, thank you very much for joining with me today. I hope this is of benefit. And I wish you all a very wonderful week. It's been a pleasure, as always. Highlight of my week. And I wish you all a blessed week. Bye-bye.